Well, today marks a watershed moment in the relationship between the two men that dates back roughly 2 years. The retired general first met Donald Trump in August of 2015 when Flynn traveled to Trump Tower to meet with the then candidate. According to The New Yorker, they were scheduled to talk for 30 minutes. The conversation lasted 90. Flynn left the meeting deeply impressed with Trump. By February of 2016, Michael Flynn was serving as an informal foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign. He had openly advocated for closer ties with Russia. In fact, 2 months earlier, Lieutenant General Flynn had traveled to Russia, to Moscow itself, as a paid speaker for a Russia Today anniversary dinner. He was seated 2 seats over from Russian President Vladimir Putin. On April 27, 2016, Donald Trump delivered his first major foreign policy speech in which he advocated for closer ties with Russia. Let's watch.
We desire to live peacefully and in friendship with Russia and China. I believe an easing of tensions and improved relations with Russia from a position of strength only is possible, absolutely possible.
By May of 2016, Donald Trump becomes the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. In July, Flynn's early loyalty is rewarded with a now infamous speaking spot at the Republican National Convention. Let's watch.
We do not need a reckless president who believes she is above the law. If a guy who knows this business, if I did a tenth of what she did, I would be in jail today.
In September of 2016, despite increasing evidence from U.S. intelligence that Russia was meddling in our election, candidate Trump continues to praise Putin. Here he is during an NBC News Commander-in-Chief forum.
He's been a leader far more than our president has been a leader.
On November 8th, Donald J. Trump is elected the 45th president of the United States. And 2 days later, President Barack Obama hosts a sit-down meeting with the president-elect and warns him against hiring Michael Flynn as his national security advisor. On November 18th, Donald Trump disregards President Obama's warning and names Michael Flynn as his national security advisor. A few weeks later, according to the New York Times reporting, Flynn and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, hosted a meeting with Ambassador Kislyak, at Trump Tower in order to establish a line of communication between the new administration and the Russian government. On December 22, 2016, according to today's court documents, Michael Flynn called Ambassador Kislyak and asked Russia to delay or defeat a pending UN Security Council vote on condemning Israeli settlements. A week later, Obama orders the ejection of 35 suspected Russian intelligence operatives from the country and imposes sanctions on 2 Russian intelligence services as retaliation for election interference, according to the New York Times. Mr. Kislyak was irate and threatened a forceful Russian response. Well, that same day, Flynn has a series of phone calls with Kislyak in which NBC News is reporting Flynn promised to reverse those sanctions. Court filings today reveal that Flynn asked Kislyak to refrain from escalating the situation in response to the sanctions. A day later, Putin announces he will not retaliate against the expulsions. Trump takes to Twitter to thank the Russian president, writing, "Great move on delay by V. Putin. I always knew he was very smart." On January 13th, once news of Flynn's calls to Russian officials were made public, the White House misrepresented the content of those calls. Let's watch the vice president, Mr. Pence.
They did not discuss anything having to do with the United States' decision to expel diplomats or impose a censure against Russia.
On January 24th, the FBI, troubled by intercepts of the call, asked to meet with Flynn. It was here where he lied about his conversations. On January 26, 2017, Acting Attorney General Sally Yates was so alarmed by Flynn's characterizations of the calls that she warned the Trump White House that Flynn might have been compromised by the Russian. She recounted that story back in May before the Senate Judiciary Committee.
We were concerned that the American people had been misled about the underlying conduct and what General Flynn had done. And additionally, that we weren't the only ones that knew all of this, that the Russians also knew about what General Flynn had done, and the Russians also knew that General Flynn had misled the vice president and others. Because in the media accounts, it was clear from the vice president and others that they were repeating what General Flynn had told them. and that this was a problem because not only did we believe that the Russians knew this, but that they likely had proof of this information. And that created a compromise situation, a situation where the national security advisor essentially could be blackmailed by the Russians.
The following day, in a private one-on-one dinner, President Trump appears to ask FBI Director James Comey for his loyalty. On January 30th, President Trump fires Sally Yates for not defending his travel ban. On February 13th, Flynn resigns. On February 14th, in another Oval Office meeting, Trump tells Comey, I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He is a good guy. I hope you can let this go. Comey was asked about this during his testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee.
This is the president speaking. I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He is a good guy. I hope you can let this go. Now, those are his exact words. Is that correct?
Correct. The reason I keep saying his words is I took it as a direction.
Right.
I mean, this is the president of the United States with me alone saying, I hope this. I took it as this is what he wants me to do. Now, I didn't obey that, but that's the way I took it.
All along throughout this relationship, President Trump has defended his former national security advisor.
Mike Flynn is a fine person, and I asked for his resignation. When I looked at the information, I said, I don't think he did anything wrong. If anything, he did something right. You know, he was just doing his job. The thing is, he didn't tell our vice president properly